Tasya etasya jano nunam tasya etasya jano nunam nayam vedoru vikramam nayam vedoru vikramam kalyamano api balino kalyamano api balino vayor iva dhanavalihi vayor iva dhanavalihi kapila uvacha tasya jano nunam nayam vedoru vikramam kalyamanopi balino vayoriva ghanavalihi kapila vacha tasya jano nunam nayam vedoru vikramam kalyamanopi balino vayoriva ghanavalihi kapila vacha tasya jano nunam nayam vedoru vikramam kalyamanopi balino vayoriva ghanavalihi kapila vacha tasya jano nunam nayam vedoru vikramam kalyamanopi balino vayoriva ghanavalihi kapila uvacha. Lord Kapila said, tasya etasya, of this very time factor, janaha, person, nunam, certainly, na, not, ayam, this, Veda, knows, uruvikramam, the great strength, kalyamanaha, being carried off, api, although, balinaha, powerful, vayoho, of the wind, iva, like, ghana, of clouds, avalihi, a mass. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation: the personality of Godhead said, as a mass of clouds does not know the powerful influence of the wind, a person engaged in material consciousness does not know the powerful strength of the time factor by which he is being carried. Please repeat this translation after me. The personality of Godhead said, as a mass of clouds does not know the powerful influence of the wind, a person engaged in material consciousness does not know the powerful strength of the time factor by which he is being carried. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The great politician Pandita named Chanakya said that even one moment of time cannot be returned even if one is prepared to pay millions of dollars. One cannot calculate the amount of loss there is in wasting valuable time. Either materially or spiritually, one should be very alert in utilizing the time which he has at his disposal. A conditioned soul lives in a particular body for a fixed measurement of time, and it is recommended in the scriptures that within that small measurement of time, one has to finish Krishna consciousness and thus gain release from the influence of the time factor. But unfortunately, those who are not in Krishna consciousness are carried away by the strong power of time without their knowledge, as clouds are carried by the wind. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjalishalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyarishitarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasudeva Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Hare. Lord Kapila is instructing his mother, Devavati. Devavati has asked him some very important questions, and Lord Kapila is answering her questions. Essentially, he is describing devotional service. And already in the past 5 chapters, he described devotional service in great detail. The glories of devotional service, and different kinds of devotional service, and some more explanation of devotional service. And now, the description about adverse fruitive activities. Now, this basically means sinful activities, but it's not so obvious many times that the kind of activity we are doing is actually sinful activity. One class of people called those of demoniac mentality, demons, they don't care what kind of activities they do. And there are ignorant people who do not know difference between sinful activities and pious activities. But there are some fortunate pious people who know difference between sinful activities and pious activities. Pious activities, we will get good reactions. But sinful activities, we get bad reactions, we will suffer. Pious activities, we may get some enjoyment or material happiness. But sinful activities, we get suffering, or we have to undergo a lot of distress. But further difficulty, even for pious people in this material world, is which activities are actually sinful activities and which activities are pious activities. That they cannot always know the difference. Just like unknowingly I may commit a sinful activity. Have I got to suffer for something I've done without knowledge? The answer is yes. Whether I know or do not know, if I commit a sinful activity, I have to suffer the reaction, the consequence. The example is given, a child puts his finger in the fire, or an adult who knows the danger of putting the finger in the fire, the finger will burn. Either case, fire will burn. No matter whether a child puts his finger or an adult puts his finger. Then knowingly or unknowingly somebody does that. Similarly, sinful activities performed knowingly or unknowingly, there is always reaction. Sinful reaction, suffering. Even if somebody understands what kind of activities are actually sinful activities, because they're conversant with the scriptures which describe which activities are actually sinful activities. Still, under the influence of this material energy or the illusory energy, we are carried away by what is called as the time factor, kala. This material world is a very complex arrangement. What is a complex arrangement? First of all, even though we are spiritual beings, we forget that we are spiritual persons, and we think in terms of this body that we have got. I am this body, material body. And not only that, ignorance about who we are, but also we are ignorant about the material world itself. It is actually a place where there is a very powerful energy acting on us, each one of us, called the material energy. It is an illusory energy. It makes you forget Krishna, God. It makes you forget that you are not this body, but you are spirit soul. And it influences you through its three qualities called three gunas, sattva-guna, rajo-guna, tamo-guna. Three kinds of influence on everyone in different proportions. So this influence of the gunas makes us wrongly think what I am. The gunas actually influence our consciousness, our awareness, our intelligence, our mind, our senses. Everything is influenced by the three gunas. And these three gunas are working under kala, time factor. Just like we may be fortunate enough to get some material happiness, but we don't realize this material happiness is for a certain duration of time, a very short duration of time. That duration of time will be finished, then the happiness is over. Next, what is going to come? We do not know. Neither we are careful about that. We are not conscious of that. So specifically here, Lord Kapila is telling a person engaged in material consciousness, most ordinary people, common people, they think I'm this body. I belong to this material world. The beginning of my life is the time I was born. And this life will end when there is death, when death comes. And at death, everything is finished. Sab khatam ho jayega. So this kind of understanding of consciousness is called material consciousness. Means completely ignorant about the spiritual reality. The spiritual reality. So such a person engaged in material consciousness does not know the powerful strength of the time factor. We are all conscious of time. Time we are conscious, day and night. We are growing up or we are becoming old. And then we organize ourselves according to time, passage of time. So we know there is something called time. But the strength of the time factor in actually carrying us away from the reality or from any situation. The time factor is taking us closer and closer and closer to death. We all know we're going to die one day. But when is death going to come, we do not know. Secondly, we are not aware that we are actually coming closer and closer and closer and closer to death as time is passing. So Srila Prabhupada explains that as soon as we are born, actually we are dying. How is that? Our birth means there is a certain lifespan, ayu. That lifespan is going on reducing because of kala, time. And suddenly one day death comes. Sometimes you hear, no, they say, suddenly somebody died. Actually, death is sudden for everyone, not for some people only. Everyone, death is sudden. Sometimes when we get a bad news that somebody is admitted to hospital, and then they're our own relative or friend or own family member. Then we go to the hospital, then we anxiously ask the doctor, so is this person going to get good treatment and going to get cured? Whatever problem it is. Doctor will sometimes say, no, it's very less chances of getting cured. And sometimes they say terminal illness means the person is going to die. We cannot cure. So then we think, oh, this person is now going to die, very sad, very bad. But the person who's actually undergoing the treatment naturally hope that the treatment will work. I'll get better. Even if the person is a very, very, very old person, still the desire or the hope to live on some more time, little more time, is still there. So one is not aware of coming closer to death. I am sitting here and speaking. My Krishna's mercy, my health is good. I do not know tomorrow I may die because my lifespan is over. I do not know. So the lesson for us from this is The time is very, very valuable. Whatever time we have before death comes is very valuable because we have got this human body. Why is it valuable? Because we got a human body. In the human body, there is a very, very special facility, opportunity, that only in the human form of life we can understand who we are. We are spiritual beings. We have no death. We have no disease. We have no old age. We have no miseries. We have no suffering as spirit soul. But all our problems are due to this body. Two kinds of body. We know this body is body. Okay. But there is another body inside this body called subtle body. The body made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So we have that body also. That is also another body that we have. And both these bodies, the external gross body and the inner subtle body, both are the cause of all our problems. They are the cause of all our problems. Gross body we know. Sometimes it becomes injured, sometimes fatigued, sometimes and there is a disease. But subtle body, it is the cause for anxiety, fear, bewilderment, confusion, uncertainty. That is due to the mind and the intelligence inside, and even the false ego. The false ego also. Sometimes our false ego is hurt and feel very bad. Somebody insults us. Somebody criticizes us. And that could be worse than a disease or pain due to some injury. Because once the consciousness is affected deep within, then to actually pacify our heart is very, very difficult. So all our suffering is due to the body, the two bodies. And spiritual life means understanding I'm not this body. That's the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Today is Gita Jayanti. So we will hear more about the glories of the Bhagavad Gita. But the first lesson in Bhagavad Gita is we are not the body. This is Krishna's instruction to Arjuna and through Arjuna all of us, that we are not this body. We are not the gross body. We are not the subtle body. We are spirit soul. And spirit soul has got wonderful qualities that Krishna explains systematically in the Bhagavad Gita. And he gives clear instructions what we should do to solve our problem of this body, material existence, suffering. Krishna gives a solution, permanent, perfect, clear, wonderful solution he gives in the Bhagavad Gita. We'll hear about that more in the evening. So, here, the warning given by Lord Kapila is, there is this time factor which is carrying us away from our present situation, taking us closer and closer to death. And death comes, this body, external body is finished. And all the while we have been thinking I am this body. When this body is destroyed, we become completely, as spirit soul, we don't die, but we have to leave this body and we have to enter another body. And this entering another body is not a simple thing. First of all, we are not prepared even to leave this body and enter another body. So because of that, too much of anxiety, what's going to happen to me? I lost My body means I've lost everything in relationship with the body. Even my near and dear ones. Till death comes, even if there is some difficulty or some disease or some problem, somebody else is there with whom I can, try to solve the problem. Death comes, we are immediately separated from everyone around us. So such a traumatic experience it is. Nobody is there with me. Actually, that's not the fact. It's not that nobody is there with you. Always we have the Supreme Lord as Paramatma in our heart. Always with us. And when we leave this body at the time of death, Paramatma is actually with us. Krishna is with us as Paramatma. But we do not know who is Paramatma. We do not know Paramatma is there in our heart. We do not know Paramatma is accompanying us always. We do not know that He is our topmost well-wisher. All this is given in the Bhagavad Gita in brief. And in the Bhagavatam, these things are explained in detail. So Srila Prabhupada says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us, among all the Vedic literature, these two are the most important scriptures, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And you study these two or you hear from these two. What is the real problem of life? Who we are? What is the solution? Who is Krishna? What is our relation with Krishna? Etc. Everything. Perfectly explained. So, here Lord Kapila is telling that if we become conscious of the time factor, then what happens? We will realize the importance of time. We will not waste time in useless things. We will be very careful to engage the time, whatever time we have, in preparing ourselves for eternal life. We have to put an end to this repetition of birth and death. Life after life, we have simply been accepting bodies, trying to live in a particular body, and then ultimately meeting with death when the lifespan is over and entering another body. Again, the same thing repeats. Whatever type of body we may get, other than human body, simply it is taking birth, growing, suffering some disease, old age, and then dying. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha dosha anudarshanam. Anudarshanam means again and again and again we have to simply go through these four in all bodies. But in human body, even though this human body is temporary, and in the human body also we're going to go through this birth, disease, old age and death, but in human body there's special facility that we can inquire. Brahma Jignasa. Who am I? Why am I forced to suffer? I don't want suffering, still why am I getting suffering, etc. So this is explained in our Vedic literature exclusively, scriptures. And among the scriptures, this Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam explains this very nicely. So we become conscious of time means we prepare through executing devotional service every available moment. You simply have to engage in devotional service. And how to engage in devotional service, how to utilize all the available time in devotional service, that is also explained by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita and by Shukadeva Goswami in the Bhagavad. Today, devotees are taking Diksha, initiation, some devotees. So what is this initiation? Briefly, I'll explain. If somebody comes to know the importance of spiritual life, then if one becomes serious about practicing spiritual life, then the first step is to actually approach a spiritual master, guru. Adav Guru Ashrayam. One approaches a bona fide spiritual master and takes shelter, Ashraya, Guru Ashraya. Means one understands from the Guru, what should I do? What should I do to practice spiritual life? Specific instructions. So the spiritual master gives instructions in the beginning, some very basic instructions, that we are spirit, soul, and not the body. That's explained in the Bhagavad Gita by Krishna systematically. But spiritual master just tells you simple things, that as spirit, soul, you are simply meant to actually serve Krishna, who is your Lord, your topmost well-wisher. He is the one who's provider. He is the one who fulfills all your desires. You have a specific loving relationship. To actually re-establish that relationship which you have temporarily forgotten is the process of bhakti. Bhakti begins with chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. But how to do this chanting so that we can get perfection of devotional service? That is taught in this system called Bhakti Yoga. And this Bhakti Yoga has been simplified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That very, very simple way of executing devotional service is taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of which there are 64 different activities in practice of bhakti. Among them, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has stressed five activities, five kinds of activities. The very first one is chanting Hare Krishna. But to properly chant Hare Krishna, one has to add 4 more types of activities. For adding those 4 activities, one of the things we have to do is approach the spiritual master and take initiation from him. Initiation means making a commitment that I'm going to follow the instructions of the Guru with regard to practicing bhakti seriously. So those who are serious about practicing bhakti under the guidance of the spiritual master will have to first take shelter of the spiritual master, Ashraya, and then Diksha, initiation. Diksha, actually, the word Diksha itself, Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadya, Diksha. So, Di means Divyam Jnanam Yato Dadya, spiritual master. When we take initiation from him, he gives us transcendental knowledge, spiritual knowledge, enlightens us about everything required for practicing and perfecting our devotional service, bhakti yoga. And then the Ksha means Kuryat Papasya Samshayam. He actually nullifies all our sinful reactions which we have got in the past. That means ordinarily people have to simply suffer all their sinful reactions in this life, whatever sinful reactions we have to suffer. It is due to us, our past sinful activities. We have to suffer. But then spiritual master will free us from all these sinful reactions when we take initiation. But then after taking initiation, we have to follow his instructions in order to remain free from the reactions that are due to us in this body through Kala. So that is possible by carrying out the instructions. So today, devotees who are taking initiation or Diksha, they are going to take vows and commit themselves to actually follow the instructions, of which as I already said, the most important instruction of the spiritual master is to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mantra Japa. So they're going to take vows that today onwards, those who take initiation, rest of their life, they're going to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mantra every single day, Japa. And the second vow they're going to take is they're going to completely avoid 4 kinds of sinful activities. This is also explained in the Bhagavatam and also in the Upanishads and in the Bhagavad Gita, that if we want to actually prepare ourselves to actually go to the spiritual world where we belong and never take birth again in this material world, never suffer again, Krishna says, Yesham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmana. One who completely ends all kinds of sinful activities. So for ending sinful activities, first of all, we should stop 4 kinds of sinful activities which are very, very prominent in Kali Yuga. Meat eating, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex. So these 4 sinful activities, we understand, are very, very dangerous. Sinful activity is bad. We should stop. But before you even try to stop all sinful activities, first you stop these 4 sinful activities. By stopping these 4 sinful activities, we are able to nicely carry out the practice of Bhakti Yoga. Otherwise, even if we want to practice Bhakti Yoga, we want to chant Hare Krishna, these 4 sinful activities will keep coming in the way of our executing service. We can't chant properly. We can't execute the Bhakti properly. We can't be peaceful in our mind. Our intelligence will not work properly due to these 4 types of sinful activities. So, very, very important, those who take Diksha, they have to completely stop these 4 sinful activities. And for this, there is a preparation. That preparation is during the period of taking shelter. That Guru says, if you want to take Diksha, you should commit yourselves. You're going to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mantra and avoid completely these 4 sinful activities. So to take that, make that commitment, you practice. You practice at least for 1 year, 6 months to 1 year. And then after that, you can actually take Diksha. Because you have practiced and you have got accustomed to doing that. But one more important thing about taking initiation is, after initiation, you'll also try to avoid offenses against the holy name. Now, chanting is a very simple activity. Simply have to vibrate our tongue, say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And we should, of course, avoid these 4 sinful activities. But this chanting, there are consideration of 10 different kinds of offenses. 10 different kinds of offenses. So what is offense against the holy name? Nama Parad. So that is explained in the scriptures, the 10 kinds of offenses. So after taking Diksha, we also try to avoid these offenses. First of all, we learn about these offenses. And we also try to avoid these offenses in our practice of bhakti as well as in our day-to-day ordinary activities, whatever we do. We try to avoid these offenses. For example, the first offense is not to criticize devotees, not to harm devotees, not to blaspheme devotees, not to speak ill of devotees, not to carry any kind of ill feeling against devotees. Because devotees are very dear to Krishna. So, if we want Krishna's blessings for practicing bhakti and progressing in Krishna consciousness, in bhakti yoga, then we should actually try to please Krishna by our activities, all the actions we do. So pleasing Krishna means not hurting, not harming, not criticizing his devotees. So therefore, the first offense against the holy name is to actually not blaspheme devotees. Of course, why will you unnecessarily criticize or do any harm to devotees? You will not do it. That's not, at least for a civilized, decent person, that never happens. But then unknowingly, if we do that, that is also considered an offense. Unknowingly, if we do it. So how to avoid these offenses? What these offenses are, how to avoid them, even committing them unknowingly. That is what you have to learn. So if you regularly practice chanting Hare Krishna, and you also study, hear, read Srila Prabhupada's books, and also the other types of activities, worshipping Krishna, and then hearing Bhagavatam, Bhagavat Shravan, the 5 activities, as I said, first one is chanting Hare Krishna, second one is hearing Bhagavatam every day, hearing, reading, discussing Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And then the third one is worshipping the deity. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhavaman bhakto madhyaji. You worship me every day. This worship of Krishna, even though there is a archana paddhati, details are given how to worship Krishna. But the simplest way of worshipping Krishna is simply to chant Hare Krishna. This is the easiest way of worshipping Krishna. To chant Hare Krishna. Nicely, seriously, avoiding offenses. So, it begins with this chanting Hare Krishna. So, somebody may say, if I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'm already worshipping Krishna. But there is also other things Krishna says you have to do to worship him. Mam namaskuru. Every day bowing down before a deity of Krishna or a picture of Krishna's deity. Every day bow down. Not only bow down to Krishna, but bow down to the spiritual master. Not only bow down to the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master, bow down to devotees, Vaishnavas. So all these things you have to learn. You have to practice. So this practice of Bhakti Yoga after initiation becomes very, very specific, well-defined, and you actually start making definite progress in Krishna consciousness. That's why this initiation is very, very important. That the spiritual master accepts you as his disciple, and you accept Srila Prabhupada as your guru, means you are completely taken shelter of him, you're strictly going to follow his instructions, and you agree to follow the rest of your life under all circumstances. So that also you have to learn. Sometimes there is difficulty in chanting. So what do I do when I have difficulty in chanting? How do I chant? So like this, you have to learn so many things. All that you learn by associating, by reading, by hearing, by practicing. All these things, you actually learn these things. And not only learning, but also following, putting in practice. And then you very quickly make advancement that before life comes to an end, before death comes, you are prepared to go back to God. That is the goal of this initiation of practicing bhakti. And ultimately, that's the success of our human form of life. We perfect our bhakti, practice of bhakti, and go back to God. I'll stop. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Prabhupada.